Well, it looks like I may have made a pretty huge mistake. See, I'm supposed to be buying GameCube games. Specifically, I'm mostly trying to collect GameCube games that I'm familiar with, that being in North America, so the NTSC versions, and I was a little curious about the Japanese GameCube side of things because at a convention I had seen quite a few of them kind of lined up, and they looked kind of interesting, so I ordered one, and then another one, and then a few more, and now I appear to be sidetracked when it comes to the GameCube collection, and it's making it a little harder to try to pick these up going forward, and I'm going to show you exactly why that is here today. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. We're going to start today with this video sponsor. Look, the internet, it's an amazing tool, but unfortunately, there are big companies out there that harvest and collect your data constantly. And when you go online, you're always leaving behind breadcrumbs of data. That is where AdGuard comes in. AdGuard has apps for all popular operating systems, including Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android. You can also use their browser extension for Chrome, Firefox, or Edge, and with the press of a button, shield your data when online. Their own proprietary protocol is stable even with a slow connection and disguises itself as normal traffic. The built-in ad blocking function lets you block malicious trackers and doesn't require installation of extra tools. With more than 65 locations on 6 continents and over 1,000 servers, you can spoof your location, giving you access to streaming shows, movies, even games that wouldn't normally be available in your area. I had a scene here where I was showing off. Now I realize I can't actually say or show video of copyright material or ads inside an ad, which is basically adception. Sounds like I need a VPN for something like that. Wait a minute. Yeah, the script, it pretty much writes itself. AdGuard has worked to perfect their security and privacy measures with more than 13 years of experience, seeing 35 million installs. Their no logs policy means AdGuard will not collect your personal data and will not transfer it to third parties. Check out the link in the description below and use code SpawnWave to get 83% off a 2-year subscription plan. That's code SpawnWave to get 83% off a 2-year plan. Thanks again to AdGuard for sponsoring today's video. So I have a nice little stack of these Japanese GameCube games here, and we're going to start with The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. Classic game, obviously, on the GameCube, very controversial when it came out, but the difference between this and the American release is, I mean, huge. We don't even have Link really on the cover. I mean, he's kind of like right there, but this is like front and center, the obvious like focus, right? Whereas here, it's more or less the logo and the boat and all of this. I know we have this iconic gold here, but I don't know, I kind of like this one more, the blue with Link being in here contrasting. And the interesting thing about these Japanese GameCube games is they still stuck with the cardboard. So they came off of the Nintendo 64, obviously, to go to the GameCube, and they went to these mini discs. So we basically had your typical case for what were essentially DVDs, but we had mini DVDs. Here, though, they still kind of gave you that cardboard cover, that cardboard sleeve. So because of that, it does feel a bit more collectible, I guess would be the right term. It's, I don't know, it's just more fun to kind of pick these up, although you do have the unfortunate side effect of cardboard, which is that it will start to deteriorate over time, and you see it kind of on the edges here. But inside, we do have a clear case. We have the disc here and then our manual that has this little guard that does come out. So it's there kind of to hold it, obviously, but the manual looks really good. Bright, colorful, kind of plays into what you figure for The Wind Waker. And looking at the disc, once again, this doesn't have that same kind of gold color scheme, and in some cases that's better. It's harder to see the accents and different things they put on this unless you look at it just the right lighting. Here, it's like front and center staring right at you. It's much, much easier to see it. And in fact, it's basically the same, although the GameCube logo is larger. Next, we do have Mario Kart Double Dash, which I actually like the cover of Mario Kart Double Dash more on the American release. I think it just is a better action shot. It has kind of the blurring to it, makes it look like there's speed to the game, like you're going fast and all this. But inside, I think I prefer the manual for Mario Kart Double Dash more. This is just the same image again, right? But this, they changed it up a bit, and the disc actually looks basically the same across the board there. I mean, I guess the checkered pattern just encompasses the entire disc, but I think I like the manual quite a bit more on the Japanese release for Mario Kart Double Dash. Oh, and check this one out. Here's Star Fox Adventures, right? And then here's Star Fox Adventures for the American release. This one is significantly better, like all the way around. Even like the cover, right? We have Fox and the protagonist here. Flip it around, you have the antagonist at the bottom. It's this nice kind of mirror effect using the logo as like that center point. And it just looks way better on the back here, where you have sort of this comic strip panel look. And then here they just did screenshots of the game, kind of a large image there with all the characters at the bottom. There's just so much more personality to this one. The only thing that kind of bugs me about this release, and actually many of the Japanese GameCube games, is that the spines don't look as good. I mean, that's way better, obviously, for the American release, whereas here it's just Star Fox Adventures, all one word. And then, I mean, look at the manual. It's not even close. It's so much better here. The disc, though, you know, I do kind of like the sort of the yellow, orange, and kind of the purple bottom there. This one just looks really, really plain, but when it comes to the cover art and the manual, yeah, the Japanese release is way better. As for comparisons, this is the last one that I have, and then I just have a bunch of other Japanese GameCube games to go through. That's for Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. I know there's less going on here for the Japanese release, but I like how clean a Final Fantasy cover art looks when it's legitimately just the logo itself, all white background, as opposed to this. I know Crystal Chronicles isn't exactly a fan favorite for Final Fantasy games, but if I'm gonna get one of these Final Fantasy games, I kind of just like the classic look like this, with it as minimalistic as possible. Even on the back, it kind of extends around. You can sort of see the logo following around there. And I guess the nice thing about this is it does show off the core aspect, whereas here it's tiny little Game Boy Advance logo down here. But this is like, yeah, get some friends, get some link cables, get your parents, get the credit card so you can pony up for all of that. Otherwise, though, they keep the minimalistic look all the way through. Same with the disc itself. I managed to also get a couple of the classics on the GameCube: Luigi's Mansion, Mario Sunshine, Mario Party 7. And you know what the nice thing is about these Japanese releases? They're not that expensive compared to their NTSC counterparts. These tend to be half, maybe even less in terms of the pricing on places like eBay. And I am curious, if you are someone in Japan now, do you see a lot of these games just kind of from time to time at video game stores or retro game stores or anything like that? Is this common? Because the fact that I go online and I see these at much cheaper prices, I know it's not as sought after because, I mean, you want to be able to read what's going on in the game, so you'd have to know Japanese and all of that, but some games can kind of be played without the need for English text. Like, I kind of feel like you could probably play Mario Party 7 if you're at least somewhat familiar with it. Others maybe not as much, but there are titles where you could probably get away with it. I kind of like the disc for that one. That actually looks pretty cool. So I'm just curious about the market when it comes to these Japanese GameCube games, because as I mentioned, it just feels a lot more fun to kind of collect these as opposed to getting ones that are in like DVD cases and all of this. I mean, it might just be the cardboard slipcover that does it, but there just seems to be a bit more fun, I guess you could say, put into these. The cheaper pricing also seems to extend to games like this, Pokemon Coliseum, as well as another really expensive Pokemon game that I did pick up, and I thought about putting it in a separate video, but we'll do it here and check it out in a second. But yeah, like Pokemon Coliseum, highly sought after on the GameCube for NTSC, but in Japan it wasn't that expensive. So that's another aspect. It's a bit easier to collect, I would say, for like the Japanese market, but you would have to have a modified GameCube in terms of the region. You could also get like a Pico Boot GameCube or anything like that, and it would allow you to boot up these games, or I guess technically you could just buy a GameCube from Japan. In that case, I'd probably recommend something like the Spice Orange console. It just looks really good in person. But here's the other title. I said I was gonna maybe hold off for another video, but you know what? We're here. Yeah, I got Pokemon Box, and if you're unaware of this game, good for you. Just pretend like it doesn't exist, because this is one of the most frustrating aspects to collecting for the GameCube, if you should include Pokemon Box or not when it comes to the NTSC collection. Because in America, I believe it was only distributed at certain, I want to say stores, maybe like Pokemon stores. I'm not sure how it worked, but basically it was only distributed in certain places, maybe Nintendo New York or something. And it was specifically designed just to store your Pokemon from Ruby and Sapphire, right? You had a little memory card that came with it, which should be in here. This is complete. And this one's also, I mean, it's still has some deterioration with the cardboard, but for its age and kind of how delicate the cardboard tends to be, this is close to like new condition. And this game, unfortunately, even though it's not really a game, goes for, I think right now, $2,000 NTSC. For the Japanese version, it's $40 to $60. Again, you can kind of see the affordability when it comes to this, and this really doesn't do much. Now, looking in here, here's our little memory card. So it's kind of cool to have that. And again, it came with it even at, I think this one was $60 in this like new condition. So you get a memory card out of it as well. And we also have manuals, actually a couple things going on in here. Interesting. And then it looks like there's an extra disc. I think this is a demo disc, actually. There's a Beautiful Joe on here. There's Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Yeah, I think we should try this out. Maybe we could pop this into, I have a Pico Boot GameCube. We can boot this up and see exactly what's going on, well, as much as I can, with it just being Japanese text. But otherwise, this looks really good. And I think this is as far as I'm going to go with Pokemon Box. I don't think I'm really going to include that necessarily, because it didn't have an official retail release necessarily in my collecting adventure, you can say. I think I'll just leave it at this. I have it, the Japanese version. To me, that's good enough. But you know what, let's actually check out this demo disc. So after taking a look at the demo disc that came with Pokemon Box, I realized that there's only one playable demo that I can tell anyway after going through all the different options. That's for Beautiful Joe, and it's mostly like the early part of the game, just so you can get a feel for it. And I mean, it's a very unique title, very interesting title, so kind of neat that they at least had a demo for it here, even though it came with Pokemon Box. But maybe this is a disc that was also used in different stores and stuff, because it seems to have a catalog where you can go through a ton of different games. They kind of throw around 100 and some odd different titles, and I think they just have a bunch of information around different games, story, screenshots, a basic synopsis of what the game is. But yeah, unfortunately, it just seems like there's one playable game in it. Now, I do want to talk about something that's kind of annoying when it comes to these Japanese GameCube games, and that's more how it would be spined, which is, I mean, how you're going to look at these games consistently, or most of the time anyway, is when they're stacked up on your shelf. And, well, one side, it looks like a disaster, where you have different color palettes and all kinds of stuff clashing. And even at the bottom, some of them are like blue, some of them are black, and they're kind of all over the place there, depending on the title. But when you flip it around, which means that the front would face the opposite direction that I'd be used to, it looks a lot better. It's just sort of all white with the black Japanese text, the GameCube logo at the top, and then kind of an icon or a character at the bottom, depending on the game. The only thing is, as I mentioned, it's kind of backwards technically for how I'd be putting games up normally on the shelf, but maybe that's just kind of how it has to be, because there it actually looks pretty good all stacked up. So all things considered, I mean, the Japanese GameCube games are pretty fun to collect for, and I think I am going to start picking some of these up too as I go along. So hopefully they don't throw me off too much when it comes to collecting for the NTSC side of things with the GameCube, because I am getting down to the point where I'm starting to collect more and more commons, and I am trying to find some of the more expensive ones, like a Cubivore. That's one that's kind of tough. Pokemon Box, I don't really, as I mentioned, plan on doing that, although I guess I have it technically for the Japanese GameCube. But for the most part, I'm going to continue on with the GameCube collecting. I got a few more in that we'll do in another video down the road as I get more and more titles together to kind of go over in a video. But let me know what you guys thought about all this down below with the Japanese GameCube games. Do you prefer those with kind of the design, the cardboard slipcover, or do you like sort of the DVD jewel case kind of with the cover art and the manual and all of that for the NTSC side? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.